Hello, it's Anne again, and I really didn't plan to have two book tags in a row, but it so happened that right now it's the middle of the year and there's this very good book tag about like mid-year freakout, and I would like to do it, and I think it's a very good introduction to what I've read so far. I think that today I will touch only, I don't know, about 10 books that I've read this year, and I read much more. I read 32 or 31 by I don't know, around that. I will finish another one today, and I will also have another video about all the books that I've read in June, because they are all connected to queerness, and it was a Pride month, a very good Pride month. I loved it. But yeah, let's get to the questions. The first one is about the best book that I read this year so far, and I have two, and I will try to stick to that, have not more than two books for each question. So the first one that I read this year, which became one of the best ones that I read, is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. It's a rom-com about a girl, Liz Buxbaum. It's a YA rom-com, that's what you need to know. Liz Buxbaum, she has this crush that has gone to another state for years, and now he's come back just before the prom. Somehow he has come back, and she thinks that this is her moment, this is her meet-cute, and now she is going to have her rom-com eventually. This is her moment. So she tries to find the way to connect with this guy, and she asks her neighbor for help. And well, you know, like, they strike a friendship, and then it goes from there. It's such a great book. I knew that the main character, Liz, that she is obsessed with rom-coms, and it's then the book is full of some like allusions toward that, some of like quotes and everything, but it was so magical. It was also full of music, and I'm still listening to tracks that were mentioned there. It's great, and I'm so grateful, I'm so glad that other people also like it. But I don't know, somehow it feels so personal. There wasn't any moment in this book that I didn't like, that I despised. Like, all the bits were so good. I'm like, it's 5 stars really. The second book that I read this year that was so great that it's now one of my all-time favorites. This is The Air You Breathe by Frances de Pointish Peebles. This book is promoted as a book about the great female friendship, but I wouldn't say so. Basically, it's about two girls that meet on a plantation in Brazil, and they strike a friendship of some sort, and one day they hear music in its greatest form, an opera, and the two of them are so moved by that music that they decide, or like they feel, this is what they are supposed to do. And so they're trying to break away from that plantation and go and make music. It's a story of their success and of their lives. How did they go from this small plantation in Brazil to then Hollywood, and how they, like, all of their travels and everything. It's a great book. I wouldn't say that it feeds anything. Of course, it's historical fiction, but it's not romance. It's not about friendship really, because we just have 3 characters that have very complicated relationships, and not the best ones. They're kind of toxic toward each other because of all the situation, because of all the circumstances. If you want to read something about music, something so like poetical about music, I would recommend this book. If you want to read something about Brazil and the, I don't know, the 40s and 50s, I think it's 30s, 40s, 50s of the previous century, and about Brazil and about the USA, then this is a book for you. I will say that when I finished this book, I realized that no, the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was 4 stars after all, and this is 5 stars, because it felt so true to my soul. I loved every second of it. No, I didn't love every second of it, but I was so like engaged in this book that I just loved it, and I was so moved by the ending that it's one of the best books that I've read in my whole life, I guess. Well, the thing is that I did not read any sequel this year. The only sequel, but I didn't read the first one, is Her Royal Highness by Rachel Hawkins. I believe that it's part of a series, but I did not read the first book. So basically, it's a WLW romance between two girls. One of them is from America, and she goes to this private school in Scotland and finds out that she has a roommate, and this roommate is like a princess of Scotland. And it goes from there, you know. So if you want to read that, it's quite a mediocre read, nothing too special, but it's very easy to read and it's a sweet story, I guess. So yeah, there it is. Well, actually, there are lots of new releases that I haven't read yet, and I'm not really planning on reading because I have so many books to catch up with by all the previous years that I'm not really trying to read all the books that will be released this year, 2023. But there are two that I will maybe read, I don't know. The first one, everyone is talking about it. It's Happy Place by Emily Henry, but I have only read Beach Read this year, and I would like to read all of her previous books before I read Happy Place, so maybe it will happen in the next year, I don't know. And the other one that was released this year is like Dear Future Mama, TMI, something about pregnancy. Basically, Meghan Trainor is my favorite musician. She's my, I don't know, like she's one of my icons. There is a picture of her actually. I know she's not perfect, but I love her and I love her music. The thing is that I'm not excited about pregnancy, like in no way. I just realized that the books are kind of, you can see them, but okay. So I really wouldn't like to read anything about pregnancy, but it's a book by Meghan Trainor, and I don't know, there's something about reading the words of a person that you really admire. So I would really like to read what she's written, maybe not like all of it, maybe some of it, I don't know. Again, I'm not really caught up with all the new releases, so I don't think that there's some book that I'm awaiting this year. I have been waiting for this book by Meghan Trainor, but have not read it yet. But a release, I don't think it's this year, I think it's the next year, but like in the beginning of the year, is the follow-up to Lynn Painter's Better Than the Movies. It's not Better Than the Prom, it's something else, but there will be a sequel. So I'm really waiting for the sequel. When it comes out, I will be reading that because I was mesmerized by this book and I really want to read the continuation and know what will happen with Liz and Wes. Okay, biggest disappointment? Well, I think that most of the books that I didn't like, I just knew that I won't like them that much, so it wasn't such a disappointment. But I have one that fits perfectly, and it's Brooklyn by Colm Toibin. This is also like an old book. Yeah, 2009. It's a book by an Irish author. He's written a novel about a girl that was raised in a small Irish town, and then she gets a chance to go to America, to Brooklyn, to New York, Brooklyn, you know. So she goes there and lives there, and then by some accident she has to go back to her small town, and we see the change in her perspective. That's what I knew about this book when I was going into it, that, you know, the girl's from a small town, she goes to the big city and then she goes back. And I was very interested in that book because I come from not a small town, but I was raised in a Siberian city. It's like, it has 1 million people living there, so it's not a town, I guess. Yeah, but I was raised there, and now I have been living in Moscow for 2 years already. So the whole topic of moving from one city to another and, you know, going back and seeing how it all changes for you, like it's a vital topic for me. So it was okay. It really served its purpose. I reflected on my experience while I was reading it, but also the ending was so disappointing. The last part of this book, because it has 4 very big parts. It does not have chapters, just this parts. And I think that I gave it 2 stars by the end, because it was 4 stars. By like the most of it was 4 stars. But the last part, I was so infuriated when I read it. So no, just no. There were also some very questionable scenes that were supposed to show us a lesbian character, but it was so awful and predatory. Like, I don't know why it had to be there. So you have to know that there's that. It happens around the 3rd part, I guess. And the second one that I can talk about is actually this book. Oh my god, I think it's gonna be so small compared to the big pictures, but okay. It's The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. And this is basically a book about a man who dies and then goes to see the 5 people that are waiting for him in heaven, and they're explaining to him everything that he didn't know about life. I don't know, it's so short, like it's really small and it's really short, and it's trying to teach you some lessons, but for me it just was so meh. It was so like no flavor, and I think it was kind of like spiritual, it wasn't very much about religion, but it has some lessons that I don't agree with and that weren't really valuable for me. And I think that the book itself, like the plot, wasn't that good. Like I just didn't like that book. It was okay, but sometimes it was really, really boring to read. And I also didn't like the female character, like the wife of what is his name? Eddie, yeah. I didn't like the character of Eddie's wife, because she changes his life, but she's also, I don't know, so miserable, and it's like she doesn't have her own character. So yeah, it was kind of disappointing, because the reviews are like this book changed people's lives. I don't know how, but I guess it did, but not for me. However, biggest surprises were the same books that I already mentioned, The Air You Breathe and Better Than the Movies, because both of those books I went into them not knowing something, but I was not expecting anything. I thought that it's gonna be like mediocre books, but they gave me so much. So yeah, those 2 books. I don't think that I have a favorite new author necessarily. I'm looking at Alexis Hall's Boyfriend Material right now, and I really love that book. I have not finished it yet, but I know that I'm gonna love it. I hope that I'm gonna love it. I would say that maybe he's my favorite author. Like, I'm really looking forward to reading his other books in this series, and not only. But still, I don't like to call someone my favorite author unless I read at least a few books by them. But I would say, like, I have some new authors that have potential to become like my favorite authors. It's of course Lynn Painter and yeah, Alexis Hall, I guess. Don't know who else could be. Oh, newest fictional crush. Well, I'm actually thinking Wes from Better Than the Movies, because this is a boy that I've been thinking about ever since. Like, I have a few pins on my Pinterest of that book, and this was just, I don't know. He is a dream boy, and yeah, just Wes Bennett. You can marry me if you want to. Oh. Well, either the main character from this book, and it is Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. We have Luke here. He's so messy. I don't know Luke or Oliver, one of them, but they're both like so good. I will talk about that book more in my video about all the queer books I read this Pride Month. But basically, it is just male romance. and rom-com in Britain. I think that's all you need to know, really. They do main characters, Oliver and Luke, they decide to have fake relationships, and it goes from there. So basically, both of these characters are so I don't know, cute and real, and I just love them both. I love seeing them communicate, and I just, yeah, I would like to read more about them. And there are other books, and it's a book series. There are lots of other books about them. I know there's like husband material and also father material and something else. I will be reading that because I'm swept off my feet with that book. Oh, and right now I'm reading Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman and Elio, like the, how do you say, like the book Elio. He has my heart. If I were a boy and I was 16 and I don't know, if I were a little bit smarter, I would be Elio. Like everything that he feels, I also feel it like that, and just the connection is there. I think that it's kind of bad that I have the same book, but there wasn't any other book that made me cry. I do not cry that easily from books. Usually I do not cry from books, but The Air You Breathe, I don't know, brought me to this edge, and I felt like if I were a more emotional person, maybe more like sensitive person, I would cry from that ending. It was so satisfying, it was so moving. So yeah, again, The Air You Breathe. Book that made you happy. Well, all the rom-coms I read this year, I guess. Favorite book to film adaptation that I've watched this year. I have read 3 books in order to see film adaptations, and it's Where the Crawdads Sing, Brooklyn, and Kindred. But I've only managed to watch 1 book to film adaptation. However, it was so good that I can call it the best and the favorite one of this year, and it is Brooklyn. It was released in 2015 or 14, I don't remember, but something around it. The film is great. It's okay. It's better than the book, I would say, because it is so descriptive. It gives you all the feels. If you want to get to know the story, really just watch the film, because the book is kind of disappointing. Okay, I have not bought that many books this year because I'm in my broke era, and I'm just listening to audiobooks, reading all the books that I have, and borrowing books from my friends. Yeah, so I only bought a few books in the beginning of the year, and I also got some books from my friends. But I think that the most beautiful that I've bought this year is this one. It's Blueberry Wine by Joan Harris, and I just love the colors. Yeah, it's a great book. I love this series, love this, like, not series, but edition, and I'm trying to get a hold of more books in this edition. I've made a whole list, and I hope that those people that want to make presents for me this year, maybe on my birthday or something, that they will buy me books from that edition, because I love them, and they're not so expensive actually. But yeah, I think this is the most beautiful that I've bought for myself this year. It's not like I need to read some books by the end of the year. I'm a mood reader, so like if I want to read something, I will read it. I have a few books on my physical TBR that I want to read, and I think that I will start with them. This one, the first one, is a collection of short stories. It's a gift from my friend, and she gave it to me like more than 6 months ago, and I have to read it. Basically, I don't know, as fast as I can, because I don't like it when people give me books and then I don't read them, and then I can't, and then we meet again and they're asking me like, oh, how's the book? And I haven't read it yet. So yeah, I really need to read this one. It's a collection of short stories about friendship, and they were all written by women or non-binary people. But I will get on to that. I don't have specific plans for the next months. However, I want to do a themed reading in October, like a Halloween themed books. A lot of books like connected to spooky topics, like something about witches. I want to read those books all in October in order to feel the atmosphere of this Halloween holiday. And I also want to do a themed reading of the books that pretty much everyone read and I didn't, and I haven't yet. The Fault in Our Stars, 1984, I guess that something around those books, like that I feel like everyone read and I have not yet. And this was actually the last question. This was all the books and everything, like my mid-year freakout about books. I am hoping to read at least the same amount of books, or not the same amount, maybe 20 books in the second half of the year, because I will be very busy in July and I don't know what will happen next, because I hope to get a job in the second half of the year, so we'll see how that will go. But yeah, at least for now, my reading was like this. I don't like it that I have basically been talking about 2 books and a few others, but I promise you that I will have other videos where I will talk about all the books that I read this year. And yeah, I have an introductory video about me, which is the booktube newbie tag. And yeah, you can also subscribe to my channel and then see a video about all the queer books that I read this month. Yeah, so yeah, just stick around if you want. Subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, maybe answer those questions if you want to in the comments. I would really love to read your answers, or just, I don't know, tell me about your biggest disappointment, biggest surprise, or the best book that you read this year. I would really like to get to know what you've been up to this past few months. You can follow me on Goodreads and on LiveLib if you know what that is. And I guess that's it. I'll see you in another video, and yeah, goodbye.